He was everything until he wasn't. Sound familiar? Let's talk about something that too many women realize after they've given their heart away. What they thought would make him stay is actually what made him leave. It's not because you weren't enough. It's not because you loved too much. It's because no one ever taught you what not to do. So in this video, I'm not here to teach you how to impress a man. I'm here to show you the 5 things you should never do with a man if you want to keep your power, protect your peace, and attract someone who sees your value from day one. Because love isn't just about how much you give. It's about knowing when to stop giving to someone who's not giving back. By the end of this video, you'll stop asking, why doesn't he see my worth? And you'll start asking, why was I trying to prove it in the first place? Let's break the cycle, starting now. There's a moment, subtle but powerful, when a woman sees a red flag and ignores it. Not because she doesn't recognize it, but because she's afraid it might be the best she'll get. Lowering your standards doesn't always look like settling for someone toxic. Sometimes it looks like convincing yourself that he has potential, or no one's perfect, or maybe I'm asking for too much, and that's exactly how it starts. It begins with one small compromise. You tolerate the fact that he cancels plans last minute, then you overlook the fact that he doesn't ask about your day. Before you know it, you're showing up 100% for a man who's barely giving you 40, and you're trying to convince yourself that it's okay. But here's the truth. Every time you lower your standards, you're teaching someone how little they have to do to keep access to you. And that's not love. That's self-abandonment disguised as connection. The problem is, many women are taught to believe that high standards are too much, that asking for consistency, effort, honesty, or emotional presence somehow makes you demanding. But those aren't high standards. Those are basic requirements for a healthy relationship. Lowering your standards isn't just about tolerating bad behavior. It's about compromising your core values just to maintain a connection. It's staying silent when you want to speak up. It's smiling when you're hurting. It's accepting crumbs and calling it a meal. When you start accepting less, you also start believing that less is all you deserve. That's the real danger. And here's what no one tells you. Lowering your standards doesn't make someone love you more. It just makes it easier for them to give you less. The more you accommodate their inconsistency, their lack of effort, their emotional unavailability, the more they'll believe that's all they ever need to offer. Eventually, you'll wake up one day feeling emotionally exhausted, asking yourself how you ended up here, loving someone who never even met you halfway. And the answer will be simple. You kept adjusting yourself to fit into a relationship that was never built to honor the woman you are. Let this be the moment you stop doing that, because the right man will never require you to become less vocal, less confident, less emotionally intelligent, less grounded, just to make the relationship work. The right man will rise to meet your standards, not make you shrink to accommodate his limitations. Here's the mindset shift. Your standards are not a test for someone to pass. They're a filter for who gets access to you. And the more you honor them, the more peace, clarity, and alignment you invite into your love life. So next time you feel yourself making an excuse, letting something slide, or telling yourself maybe this is just how relationships are, pause and check in with your gut. Because love should feel safe, not sacrificial. You don't have to dim your light to be loved. You just have to be brave enough to walk away from anything that makes you question your worth. Never let loneliness convince you to lower your standards. Your future self, the one who's thriving, glowing, and deeply loved, will thank you for the choices you make today. One of the biggest traps women fall into early in dating is overinvesting emotionally before a man has earned that level of access. And it's not because women are weak, it's because you're wired for connection. You're empathetic and you lead with your heart. But when you start emotionally committing to someone based on potential, chemistry, or fantasy, before there's consistency, clarity, and reciprocation, you're setting yourself up for deep disappointment. It usually starts innocently. You go on a few amazing dates, you feel that spark, you open up a little, and suddenly you're already imagining a future with this person. You replay conversations in your head, overanalyze his texts, and start investing energy that he hasn't asked for and may not even deserve. You find yourself caring way more than he's shown he's capable of handling. And here's the danger in that. When you emotionally overinvest too soon, you stop observing. You start interpreting his actions through the lens of your feelings, not reality. If he goes silent, you worry. If he gives breadcrumbs, you start wondering what you did wrong. Your emotional attachment becomes a filter, one that blinds you from the fact that he's not meeting you at the level you're showing up. You can't build a solid connection with someone who's still showing you fragments of who they are. But emotional overinvestment will trick you into thinking you already know him. That because he shared a few vulnerable things, or because you just get each other. It must mean something deeper. But feelings aren't facts, and chemistry is not compatibility. A man's potential is not a promise. A deep conversation is not commitment. A strong vibe doesn't mean emotional availability. And a great beginning doesn't guarantee a healthy relationship. When you start giving girlfriend-level emotional support without any clear commitment, you end up creating an emotional imbalance where you're pouring in, hoping he'll catch up, while he's still deciding how much he even wants to be involved. That gap leads to overthinking, anxiety, and worst of all, self-blame. You might tell yourself, maybe if I show him how loyal I am, how much I care, he'll see my value. But real love isn't earned by proving yourself. It's built through mutual effort, mutual interest, and mutual growth at a pace that's emotionally safe and balanced for both people. The truth is, it's not about playing games or being cold or distant. It's about matching energy, not leading with it. Letting someone show you who they are consistently over time before you let your emotions fully lead the way. Protecting your emotional investment is not about being guarded. It's about being wise. You can be warm and open without handing over your heart in week 2. You can be excited about someone without building a fantasy in your head that reality can't sustain. You can stay grounded in your standards while still getting to know someone deeply. What you give emotionally should reflect what he's already shown you through his actions, not what you hope he'll eventually become. Because when you invest too much, too soon, it's not just your heart that's on the line, it's your peace, your clarity, and your ability to walk away if it turns out he's not what you're looking for. Slow down. Observe. Let the relationship reveal itself. Love should never require you to abandon your emotional balance just to feel chosen. We've all done it, seen something that didn't sit right in the beginning and thought it's probably not that serious, or he's just going through something. That's the dangerous part about red flags. They don't wave, they whisper. And if you're too focused on the potential of a relationship, you'll silence those whispers until they become screams. Ignoring red flags isn't about not seeing them. It's about hoping they'll go away, hoping he'll change, hoping love will be enough to fix it. Maybe it's how he talks over you when you're trying to express how you feel. Maybe it's how he avoids taking accountability when he messes up. Maybe it's how he always seems to make you feel like the problem, even when your concerns are valid. These aren't quirks. These are signs, indicators that something isn't right. But women are emotional caregivers by nature. So what happens is you start making excuses. You say he's been through a lot, or he just needs time, or no one's perfect. And while compassion is beautiful, it becomes dangerous when it's one-sided, when you're the only one giving grace, while he keeps giving bare minimum effort. Why excuses become a coping mechanism. You use them to protect your heart from the truth that he's showing you exactly who he is, and you're just not ready to let go. The longer you excuse a red flag, the deeper the attachment becomes. Suddenly, you're not just hoping he gets better, you're emotionally invested in fixing him. You confuse loyalty with endurance, and before you know it, you're pouring your energy into being patient with potential instead of being present with reality. Here's something to sit with. Love does not require you to be blind. In fact, real love sharpens your vision. It helps you see clearly, not ignore what's uncomfortable. Red flags don't mean someone is a monster, but they are evidence that their emotional habits, wounds, or maturity may not be compatible with the kind of relationship you want. And it's not your job to stay and teach someone how to love you properly. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for them is walk away. Because every time you overlook something that makes you feel unsafe, disrespected, or unseen, you're abandoning your own emotional truth. And that pattern of self-betrayal doesn't just affect your relationship, it starts to erode your self-worth. You start questioning yourself, was it really that bad? Maybe I overreacted. Maybe I'm just too sensitive. No, you're not too sensitive. You're self-aware, and that's your strength. There's a big difference between giving someone grace and giving them repeated chances to disrespect you. You are not obligated to explain your standards more than once. You are not difficult for noticing when someone's behavior is out of alignment. And you are certainly not responsible for fixing patterns that someone else refuses to acknowledge. The earlier you respond to red flags, the easier it is to detach. But the more you justify, rationalize, and romanticize someone's dysfunction, the harder it becomes to leave, even when the pain outweighs the peace. So trust this, your intuition is your greatest protection. If something feels off, don't wait for proof. Emotional maturity means honoring your own truth, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it means walking away from someone you care about. Stop waiting for the situation to get worse before you give yourself permission to leave. The red flag was your permission. Use it. Let's talk about one of the most overlooked but emotionally expensive mistakes women make in dating. Giving the girlfriend experience without a man ever asking for commitment. It's subtle. You start cooking for him, checking on him every day, being his emotional support system, planning your schedule around his, making time even when he doesn't. And suddenly, you're doing everything a girlfriend would do, but without the actual title. No commitment. No clarity, just vibes and effort. And here's the thing, it feels like love. It feels like something's building. You tell yourself this is how relationships grow, right? But what's really happening is you're teaching him to enjoy all the benefits of being with you without ever having to step up. Giving the girlfriend experience without commitment is dangerous because it creates a false sense of intimacy. It blurs the line between dating and a real relationship. You start operating like a couple in emotional investment, time, and sometimes even physical intimacy. But there's no actual foundation, no agreement, no direction. It's like giving someone the keys to your home when they're still deciding if they even want to live there. When you act like his girlfriend without requiring clarity, you remove the pressure for him to make a decision. Why would he need to commit when he's already getting your energy, loyalty, and presence at full price while offering you discount level effort? This isn't about manipulation or holding love hostage. It's about alignment. You cannot build a secure relationship with someone who's benefiting from your effort while keeping you in a gray area. And you might think, but if I keep showing up, he'll eventually see how good I am and commit. But that's not how secure men operate. The right man doesn't need to be convinced. He doesn't need a trial version of you. He'll want you in his life, and he'll make it clear with both his words and actions. It's not that you shouldn't be kind, thoughtful, or supportive. You absolutely should, but with boundaries. Emotional availability is beautiful, but it has to be matched. Otherwise, you're pouring into a situation that's not ready to hold what you're giving. You're investing in a space that hasn't shown you it's safe. Relationships don't grow from over-functioning. They grow from mutual effort and intentionality. If a man is still unsure, still figuring things out, still inconsistent, then he doesn't need the full experience of having you. So, that doesn't make you mean, cold, or unavailable. It makes you emotionally responsible. Every time you step into the girlfriend role prematurely, you disconnect from your standards. You start measuring progress based on feelings instead of facts. You stay longer than you should because of how it feels, not what it is. And here's the truth that stings. Men know when they're benefiting from your energy without giving you clarity. They may not always say it, but they're aware of the dynamic. And the longer you tolerate it, the more you normalize it. So if you're doing all the girlfriend things, cooking, helping, being emotionally present, and he hasn't stepped up with real commitment, it's time to take a step back. When you stop giving the girlfriend experience without the relationship, the right man will show up. Not confused, not halfway, but certain. There's a slow, quiet shift that happens in so many relationships. At first, it's innocent. You like what he likes. You want to spend more time with him. You compromise a little, nothing major. But slowly, almost without noticing, you start shrinking yourself to fit what you think he wants. And before you know it, the woman you were before him starts disappearing. This is the mistake of losing your identity to please a man. It doesn't happen overnight. It starts with skipping your usual routines to make time for him. You stop going out as much with your friends. Your goals take a back seat. You start dressing in ways he prefers, talking softer so you don't come off too intense, and downplaying your needs so you don't seem too much. You shape yourself into a version that feels easier to love, and that's when the real you starts to fade. You think that by becoming what he wants, he'll value you more. That if you show him how supportive, flexible, and low maintenance you can be, he'll stay. But what actually happens is the opposite. The more you abandon your own identity, the less magnetic you become. Because the woman who was once vibrant, passionate, and full of life is now only a reflection of what he's comfortable with. Here's what no one tells you. The right man doesn't need you to shrink to be lovable. He doesn't want a watered down version of you. He's drawn to your individuality, your strength, your passion, your boundaries, all the things you lose when you mold yourself around someone else's preferences. When you start pleasing at the expense of your own truth, you begin to self-abandon. And that self-abandonment creates quiet resentment. You start feeling invisible, not because he stopped seeing you, but because you stopped being you. And eventually, it leads to confusion. You look in the mirror and don't recognize yourself. You wonder why you're exhausted, anxious, and constantly seeking his validation. It's because your entire sense of self has become wrapped in how he feels about you instead of how you feel about yourself. Real love doesn't require you to let go of who you are. It expands who you are. It supports your growth, your independence, your wholeness. It's not about becoming someone's ideal. It's about being fully yourself and having someone choose you because of that, not in spite of it. When you start sacrificing pieces of your identity to keep the peace or avoid conflict, you're not preserving the relationship. You're building it on a fragile foundation, because one day your real self will need to surface. And if the relationship can't hold who you really are, it was never meant to last. So take a step back. Ask yourself, am I still connected to the things that make me me? Do I still laugh the same? Do I still have time for my passions, my people, my peace? Or have I centered my life around someone who didn't ask me to, but also didn't stop me? You don't have to lose yourself to be loved. You don't have to perform to be chosen. The most beautiful, lasting relationships happen when two whole people come together, not when one person gives up their identity to be enough. If you ever feel like being yourself is a risk in a relationship, that's not love, that's fear. And you deserve more than that. You deserve to be loved as you are, not as a version you create to keep someone around. Hold on to yourself. That's where your real power is. And that's the version of you that will always attract the love you truly deserve. If you've found yourself in any of these patterns, lowering your standards, over-investing too soon, ignoring red flags, giving the girlfriend experience without commitment, or losing your identity, I want you to know something. You're not broken. You're not stupid. You're not weak. You are human. You loved hard, you hoped deeply, and you led with your heart. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what matters now is what you do next. The truth is, these patterns aren't random. They're habits, learned behaviors, often rooted in fear. Fear of not being chosen, fear of being alone, fear that this might be your only shot at love. So we start bending, shrinking, and compromising in ways that feel subtle at first, until we're left wondering how we got so far away from ourselves. And here's where your power begins. Awareness. You can't change what you won't acknowledge. But once you see the pattern, you're no longer a prisoner to it. You're now in the position to break it. It starts with slowing down. Don't rush into emotional intimacy just because the connection feels strong. Observe. Ask questions. See how consistent someone is, not just in how they treat you when things are good, but how they respond when things get uncomfortable. That's where truth lives. Then it's about boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They're self-respect in action. They're how you teach people to treat you. Not through lectures, but through your behavior. When you stop giving energy to people who are not showing up for you in a consistent, intentional way, you start attracting relationships that are actually aligned with your worth. You also need to come home to yourself. Reconnect with your own identity. What do you love outside of relationships? What makes you feel alive, confident, whole? The more you pour into your own life, the less you'll feel tempted to send to someone else in it before they've earned that space. Because here's the truth, the more full you are within yourself, the less likely you'll settle for someone who only sees your worth in pieces. Another key to stopping these cycles is self-trust. So many women have learned to second-guess themselves, to doubt their intuition, to rationalize the discomfort they feel. But deep down, you always know. You know when someone's not right for you. You know when you're overgiving. You know when you're staying longer than you should. It's not clarity you lack. It's the courage to act on it. So ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I actually honor my standards? If I actually walk away when I see a red flag? If I stop trying to be liked and start focusing on being respected? The moment you stop begging to be chosen and start choosing yourself, everything changes. You stop chasing closure and start creating it. You stop trying to prove you're worthy and start realizing that your worth was never up for debate. You don't need to be perfect to be loved. You don't need to be less emotional, less opinionated, less passionate. The right relationship will hold space for all of you. But it starts with you holding space for yourself. Even when it's hard, even when it means walking away from something you wanted to work. Healing is messy, growth is uncomfortable, but repeating the same painful cycles, that's even harder. So give yourself permission to grow, to evolve, to learn the lesson without shaming yourself for the experience. You're not behind, you're not too late, you're just waking up to your own power. And that's where everything begins to shift. This is your moment to stop settling for less, to break the cycle, to love yourself so deeply that anything less than mutual healthy love simply won't feel like home anymore. You're not here to chase love. You're here to be love. It's the kind that never abandons you, even when no one else is watching.